Hello, our topic is why the 11th harmonic is so important. In vibrational astrology, we have observed that the 11th harmonic is very powerful. If a person has a mental disturbance or an emotional disturbance of some kind, very, very often the 11th harmonic is involved with that disturbance. Not always, but extremely often. It's one of the first things we look at when there's something disturbed in the person, something unbalanced, something on edge. Because the 11 is very unstable and it feels like the 11 is reaching to 12. That the 12, which is a fundamental number in astrology, is a stable point. It's the basic frame of reference. And it feels like 11 knows that it's almost to 12. It's like reaching, it's on the last step of the stairway, it's reaching up to 12 where it will find a balance. Excuse me. So this is kind of anthropomorphic. I give these feelings to the numbers that 11 is reaching to 12. And similarly, the 13th harmonic feels like it's reaching beyond 12. Oh, this is fine. These are the ideas we use. It's a little mysterious how these harmonics could be aware or feel like they're reaching to the harmonic that's next to it. But we use those images because they work for us. So that's the observation. That's what we do. Now, this is very exciting to me. Very recently, a fellow by the name of Larry Ely made a discovery. And his discovery explains to me how it is that 11 reaches to 12. There's an actual phenomenon, a vibrational phenomenon, which connects 11 and 12. They are tightly woven together. So on the title of this slide, I'm calling it the consecutive harmonic interweaving, that there's a tapestry in the universe where the 11th harmonic weaves its way right into the 12th harmonic. I find this fascinating and exciting because we make an observation, we have no idea how this can be, and then we find out there's actually a reason for it. It's just phenomenal. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing some theory. If your interest in astrology is just to interpret charts, this background theory is not essential. If you're trying to make new discoveries or you're just curious about how things work, then theory becomes important. Okay, so what I'm going to explain in this video is how consecutive harmonics, by consecutive I mean numbers next to each other like 11 and 12, how they weave together. In fact, all consecutive harmonics are woven together. So 11 weaves together with 12, 12 weaves together with 13, 13 weaves together with 14. The consecutive harmonics, they actually, you might say, know about each other. I found this incredible because we were using this idea without any sense of how they could be woven together, and they are. Okay, so let me explain to you what it is Larry discovered and how, for me, this answered a question of how the consecutive harmonics can be intimately related to each other. Now, Larry started out with a different question, not related to the issue of how one harmonic can be related to the next harmonic. His question was much simpler and kind of an exciting, direct question. His question is, what point of a zodiac sign is the most intense and pure expression of that sign? So let's go to the next slide so I can show you what I'm talking about. Let's take these 30 degrees of Aries. So I've got the 12 signs of the zodiac around the circle. So we've got 30 degrees of Aries. For over 2,000 years, people have believed that not all 30 degrees of Aries are equally Aries. There are subtones within Aries. Is there a place within these 30 degrees of Aries that's the purest Aries? It has not as much Taurus or Gemini or Cancer or other zodiac signs that are making it, more complex. Is there a pure point of where Aries? You might think, well, maybe it's right at the beginning Maybe the beginning of Taurus is the most pure Taurus. Maybe the beginning of Gemini, or maybe the middle. You get different intuitions about it. Larry came up with an answer to this question that I think is very intriguing, and by coincidence happens to tell me about why 11 is related to 12 and so on. But let me just tell you what he came up with. Larry said, let's look at it as a fractal. Very appealing idea. We know fractals are very important. And the idea of a fractal is to just repeat something. Take something within something, within something, within something. So Larry says, why don't we just take zodiacs within zodiacs within zodiacs? Okay, let's do it. So what he did is within each sign, he puts a zodiac. So each zodiac sign becomes its own whole phenomenon, which embraces its own zodiac. So around the outside of Aries, we put the 12 signs, Aries through Pisces, and I've drawn those in there. And then Taurus will also have Aries through Pisces. And I only put in the first two signs, but you have the idea. You would have a zodiac, Aries through Pisces, within each zodiac sign. It's a beautiful and elegant idea. Now, this idea is not new, and there have been variations on this idea for a very long time. One variation of the idea is called a Dwadasamsa sign. And the Dwadasamsa sign, when you get to the end of a sign, you get to the end of Aries and you're at Pisces, instead of continuing with Aries, you jump a sign so that each sign begins with its own sign. So when you get to the end of Aries, when you get to the end of the sign Aries and you're at this sub-sign of Pisces, instead of going to Aries, you jump over Aries and go to Taurus. Same thing would happen with each sign. You jump a sign so that each of the 12 signs can begin with its own sign. That's called a Dwadasamsa sign. I have believed for a long time that Dwadasamsa signs are valid, and they are actually a development or expression upon this basic idea. I think that this idea that Larry is presenting is more fundamental, and that this Aries quality at the beginning of Taurus, Aries is basically saying, I'm at the beginning, and it's the first flavor, or you can almost look at it as a house. I'm in the first quality of Taurus. Well, let's not worry about that. I just want you to know that there are variations of this idea that Larry has. Another variation is you put 13 signs within each zodiac sign, and then you don't have to skip a sign. But what I like about Larry's idea is that it's simple, uncomplicated, no special rules. You just take signs within signs within signs. No funny business, no tinkering around, just pure fractal approach. It's an intriguing idea that this could be fundamental. Now, if we do that, let's take the sign of Taurus, and that means that 2.5 to 5 degrees of Taurus is a pure Taurus, right? Because the first 2.5 of Taurus is Aries, because each of these 12 subsigns is 2.5 degrees long. So 2.5 degrees of Taurus is pure Taurus. And similarly, if you go to Gemini, we have every sign begins with Aries, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, 5 to 7.5 of Gemini, this green area. Oh no, where? Gemini's over here, sorry. Sorry. This Gemini be this yellow area, 5 to 7.5 Gemini would be pure Gemini. And now if I do another zodiac in the third ring with 12 signs within each of these little signs, we would get another part of this Gemini that's even more pure Gemini. And if we calculate that out, I won't, calculate it for you. I think it's rather tedious. You would find that between 5 degrees and 25 minutes of Gemini and 5 degrees 37 minutes of Gemini is where this next Gemini, the third ring, the 144 signs would be right there. And if you keep doing it, you'll find that the pure Gemini intensity is at about 5 degrees, 27 minutes, and 16 seconds of Gemini. So it's a fascinating idea. And these 12 signs, by the way, are simply the 12th harmonic. There's something called a harmonic chart, and in a harmonic chart, these would be 12th harmonic signs. So there's a name for these things that already exist. These are 12th harmonic signs, and the next row would be the 144th harmonic, and so on. Okay, next slide. Now, not only did Larry come up with this idea and point out that there would be a specific point where the pureness of each zodiac sign would occur, he has advanced degrees. He went to Princeton. He knows a lot of math and science, and he figured out the formula for calculating this. As you might imagine, there's a formula, and the formula is very simple. We can express the formula different ways, but I've put it here as Z divided by 11 times 360, where Z is the zodiac sign 0 to 11. So if you call Aries 0, instead of counting from 1, count from 0, and you call Taurus 1 and Gemini 2, if you divide by 11 and multiply by 360, you will get those 12 powerful, pure points of each zodiac sign. So for example, where is the maximum intensity of Gemini? Where is Gemini pure Gemini? Gemini is the third sign, so we subtract 1 and we get 2. 2 divided by 11 times 360 is 65.4545. If you convert that to zodiac notation, it's 5 Gemini, 27 minutes, 16 seconds, approximately. Doesn't even round off to a second, which is the position I gave in the previous slide. So this means that these pure points are distributed equally around the zodiac in 11 equal positions, and I have a little diagram of this right here. So these are the 11, or actually 12, I'll explain why it's 12 in a minute. These are the 12 pure points. So here's our 5 Gemini, whatever I said it was, 5 Gemini, I'll go back and give you the exact position. 5 Gemini, 27 minutes, 16 seconds approximately is right here. And here's the pure Cancer point. You'll notice that the pure point is a little bit later in each sign. It's a little bit later because we've divided the circle by 11. So we get the pure Aries point is the beginning of Aries. And then Taurus, the pure Taurus point, a little bit into Taurus, Gemini a little further into Gemini. And you see it moves a little further in with each one. By the time we get to Aquarius, the pure Aquarius point is near the end of Aquarius. And the pure Pisces point is at the very, very end of Pisces. You could say it's infinitely close to 0 Aries on the Pisces side. So right at that dividing line of Pisces and Aries, we switch from pure Pisces to pure Aries. So the Pisces and Aries pure points are essentially the same. You get a switch at the end of Pisces from pure Pisces to pure Aries. Okay, so these are the points of total, pure, unadulterated quality of the zodiac signs. I actually think it's more complicated than this because there are also Navamsa signs and other things that set tones. But in terms of a simple fractal foundation, these are foundational points. 11 points around the zodiac where there's a pure quality based on that fractal approach to it. It's like a depth, a drilling down by that fractal nature. Now this is what's interesting, is that those 11 points are the beginning of the zodiac signs in the 11th harmonic chart. So what we have is this. The pure points in the 12th harmonic are starting points in the 11th harmonic. Because in the 11th harmonic, we create 11 zodiacs. And this is what creates the interweaving between consecutive zodiac signs, is that when I'm in the 11th harmonic, each new 11th harmonic zodiac, each of those 11 zodiacs start at pure points of the next harmonic. Okay, so this is part of the sophistication, part of the elegance and mystery of the universe, how there's this complex and beautiful interweaving of vibrational systems. And the way it works out is that the 11th harmonic flows into the 12th harmonic. As each of those 11th harmonic points starts, it's also a pure point in the next harmonic. And that's this interweaving nature. Okay, so if you have a little trouble, if you're not used to thinking about complex patterns and numbers, you don't have to worry about this too much. Just the main image to get from this is that it's like a tapestry, like a fabric that's woven together very, very beautifully. Now, I'll demonstrate this with an actual chart. What we'll do is we're going to put the sun right at this 27 Aquarius 16 point, right there. Is it 27 Aquarius 16? It's 27. I keep forgetting the position. Oh yeah, we're going to do it for Aquarius. We're not going to do it for Gemini. We're going to do it for Aquarius. And it so happens that at 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 38 seconds, Greenwich Mean Time on February 16th, 2019, the sun will be exactly at this pure Aquarius point towards the end of Aquarius. At about 27 degrees Aquarius, that's the pure Aquarius point. So let's look at a chart. Let's look at the chart for the sun at this position. I ran it for where I live in Gainesville, Florida, and here it would be 1 hours, 11 minutes, 38 seconds is the pure point. So I'm in the Sirius software here, and this is the chart for 1 hours, 11 minutes, 38 seconds a.m. in Gainesville, Florida, and there's the sun at 27 Aquarius 16. Now, I've also created the 11th harmonic chart and the 12th, the 144th, and the 12 times 12 times 12, which is 1,728. So if you multiply 12 times 12 times 12, you'll get 1,728. And if you multiply another 12, you'll get 20,736. So I think that's high enough. I mean, you can keep multiplying by 12 and you get these huge numbers. Now, what we're going to find out is that in the 11th harmonic, the sun will be at 0 Aries. It'll be at perfectly 0 Aries because this is the starting point of an 11th harmonic zodiac. And in the 12th harmonic, the sun will not move. It'll be constant. So this point of 27 Aquarius 16 is a starting point in the 11 and is a non-moving point, a point of perfect stability, of perfect 27 Aquarius 16, unchanging in the 12th harmonic. So the starting point in the 11th becomes an unchanging 27 Aquarius 16 in the fractals of the 12th harmonic. So I pulled up the 11th harmonic chart, and there's the sun at 0 Aries 0, 0. And by the way, if I go into listings and I pull up this planet positions list, there's the sun, 0 Aries, 0 minutes, 0 seconds in the 11th harmonic. If I go to time adjust and I just move 1 second later, I'm still at 0 Aries, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and I go another second later, it's already moved away from the perfect 0. So 2 seconds later at 1 hours, 11 minutes, 40 seconds, the sun is no longer perfectly at 0 Aries. And if I go back my 2 seconds, I'm back to the original time. And 1 second earlier, it's also not at 0 Aries. So in the 11th harmonic chart, the sun is perfectly at 0 Aries, 0 minutes, 0 seconds for only 2 seconds of time. So it very quickly, and I adjusted this chart to get the 11th harmonic chart sun position exactly at 0 Aries. So we know that if I go back to the natal chart, this natal chart has a perfect sun at 0 Aries in the 11th harmonic chart. Now let's look at the 12th harmonic chart. Is the sun going to stay at 27 Aquarius 16? I click on 12th harmonic chart. Here's the sun at 27 Aquarius 16. So there it is. The sun is at a perfect still position of 27 Aquarius 16, a pure Aquarius quality. If I multiply by 12 again, and I go to the 144th harmonic, where's the sun? 27 Aquarius 16. This is so cool. So you keep multiplying by 12, and the sun doesn't move. It stays right there. And that's the only point in the zodiac where the sun is going to stay exactly in Aquarius as you drill down through these layers of this fractal reality. This is all stuff that Larry figured out. And I noticed the connection in relationship to harmonics, which was important to me because I'm trying to figure out how the heck can 11 be reaching to 12? Well, now I know, because the 11 beat is intimately connected with the 12 beat. These consecutive harmonics are interwoven together. Now let's go to the 12 times 12 times 12. Will the sun still be at 27 Aquarius 16? I go to this harmonic, and it's moved 1 minute to 27 Aquarius 15. And if I go to this one, which is 12 times 12 times 12 times 12, the next level, the sun has moved a little bit to 27 Aquarius 04. The reason it's not staying exactly at 27 Aquarius 16 is because this harmonic is the 20,736th harmonic. You can think of it like this. Everything in this chart is moving 20,736 times faster than the natal chart. It's as if you took time and you sped it up by over 20,000 times. And you would have to calculate the position of the sun to less than it's there for less than a second of time. So everything's moving at ridiculously fantastic speeds when you get up in these high harmonics, and that's why it's moved a little bit, because we would have to calculate the chart, pick a time within a fraction of a second for it to be stable. So the bottom line is this: if you're not a super geeky, techie oriented person, and if your eyes are starting to cross, what you can take home from this is that each consecutive harmonic is interwoven together, and as each beat of a harmonic, the beat of the 11th harmonic, each time that 11th harmonic, each 11 beats of it through the zodiac and becomes a zero Aries, at the perfect zero Aries point in that 11 beat is also a pure zodiac sign quality in the 12th harmonic. So we find that the 11th harmonic, when it starts, when it gets its starting point, it's found a place of peace in the 12th harmonic. It's found the place of unchanging, perfect continuity in the next harmonic. So 11, in a sense, is reaching to 12, and 13 is reaching beyond 12. It's really amazing because we've been using these images, and all of a sudden we find out that there's a vibrational reason for it. This is one of the reasons why vibrational astrology is so exciting. We keep making new discoveries, new observations, and a lot of things we don't really understand why they're happening or how they could happen. And then, surprise, surprise, we find out that there's an explanation for it. I never expected to get an explanation for this. I just accepted it. And now we see that there's a reason. So in vibrational astrology, we usually don't have to project a lot of, you might say, anthropomorphic qualities onto what's happening. There's something embedded in the intricate tapestry of things that brings these qualities out. Okay. Not that there's anything wrong with putting anthropomorphic qualities on numbers. It just so happens that we find things to help explain what it is we're seeing. We're finding theories to explain our observations. Very, very exciting. Okay. So, this is just repeating what I've already said. Oh, this last paragraph is important. I'll read this whole paragraph. The vibrational astrologers like myself have observed that the 11th harmonic is extremely powerful, as I've said, and seems to be hungry to reach a resolution and fulfillment in the 12th harmonic, similar to the 7th note of a scale reaching to the next octave. But when you're making these analogies of vibrations in astrology with musical vibrations, you have to be a little bit careful, because what we've found is that the astrological vibrations work a little differently from sound waves and a little differently from light waves. So light waves work differently from sound waves. For example, with sound waves, if you double the wave, you get the next octave of the same note. With light waves, if you double the wave length, you basically just start moving into another phase of the electromagnetic spectrum. There's not a obvious repetition of the same quality like there is with sound waves. Also with sound waves, we have intervals. We play two waves at the same time, and we get certain musical intervals like major fourths or major fifths or major thirds or minor thirds and so on. We don't have exactly that idea with light waves in exactly the same expression and the same way that humans would experience it. So there are differences between waves as they occur in different contexts. And the way that we're using vibrations in vibrational astrology, we see some similarities to sound waves. We do have octaves of vibrations in vibrational astrology. However, we don't directly have the idea of a major fourth and a major fifth and a major third. I've tried, other people have tried to incorporate that. Doesn't really quite want to work that way. So I just want to emphasize, when we talk about a music of the spheres, there is a music of the spheres, but not to take it too literally. The evidence so far is that human music and the music of the spheres are similar, but the principles at work are a little bit different. So the reason I say they're a little bit different is that our research on what's in the charts of athletes or rock and roll musicians, gold prices, all this research comes up with theories and ideas that are similar to the idea of light waves and music waves, but a little bit different. I just wanted to make that point a little bit clear, and why some of these analogies I've used before may or may not work. Now we see that the vibrations, by their own very nature, make one harmonic, like the 11th harmonic, flow into the 12th. Okay, and another point, there appears to be a kind of ripple effect, so that 11 knows about 12, 12 knows about 13, so therefore 11 knows a little bit about 13. So if I know Bill and Bill knows Joe, then I indirectly know Joe through Bill. Or you can think of it as waves. You drop a rock or a pebble in a lake, and the waves go out, and so one wave is hitting another wave, is hitting another wave. So each number is aware of its environment. It's especially aware of what's next to it, but it also spreads out a little bit and seems to know past its immediate neighbor a little bit. And this explains why twin primes like 11 and 13, when we interpret these in vibrational astrology, we see them as almost two sides of the same coin, or two parts of one process is probably a better way of putting it. 17 and 19 are related. 29 and 31 are related. So these prime numbers are the key ones. They're the most important numbers. And a number that's a twin prime means there's another prime just two away. They seem to know about each other, and they both share a neighbor, the number in between. On the other hand, if you take a number like 23, it has no prime numbers very close to it. The nearest prime numbers to 23 are 19. I have an error here, it's a 17. Are 19 and 29, I believe. So there isn't another prime number that's close to it. It's almost like the 23 is kind of lonely. It's off by its own. 37 is a little bit like that. They're happy to be on their own and create their own little world about them, and they don't need the support of other people, you might say, or other things. So this affects how these numbers work, how these harmonic patterns affect us, and what their astrological influence is. I want to mention something else. As long as I'm on this topic of how we understand the meanings of prime numbers, other than observation, do lots of charts, we do these extreme case sampling studies and controlled, other kinds of controlled research with no cherry picking, and we apply the ideas with clients, and we develop the ideas. But in terms of understanding the theory behind it, in addition to what numbers are near a number, like 11 and 13 are near 12, this other thing, the modulus functions, are very important. And the way the modulus functions work, just so you know about this, I don't want to skip this when I'm talking about what makes the meanings of the astrological meanings of these harmonics, is you can do a modulus 30 is the most important one. So let me just jump to the bottom of this slide. If you take 37, which is a prime number, and you do modulus 30, it means just subtract out multiples of 30, you get 7 as a remainder. You can also do modulus of 6, 12, 18, and 24. When you do 37 divided by 24, you get a remainder of 13. And if you do it by 18, and you subtract out all the multiples of 18, you get 1. And modulus 12, you get 1. And modulus 6, you get 1. So prime numbers are arranged in patterns. And in vibrational astrology, we go up to the 300s. Maybe in the future we'll go up to 1,000 or a few thousand. We'll never go into the tens of thousands. We've already seen why. It doesn't make any sense. We don't experience time, to decimals of a second, and everything's moving way too fast in those high harmonics to be relevant to the human experience. So we may end up going, who knows, we'll find out maybe harmonics work up to 1,000. I'm certain they won't work up to 10,000 for human experience because they wouldn't relate to the way we experience life. They go too fast. So my point is, we don't go into huge numbers like millions and billions like number theorists do and mathematicians when they talk about prime numbers. We're just looking at these relatively low numbers, maybe up to 300 or 400, maybe 1,000 at the very most. Right now, we only go into the 300s, and there's a clear pattern of low prime numbers. They are arranged in patterns of 30. So you think of prime numbers as being random, they're not random. There's a lot of randomness to it, but there's also a structure to it. They have symmetric patterns within a rhythm of 30. They also have a symmetric pattern within a rhythm of 210. And as you go to bigger numbers, the pattern becomes more rigorous, has fewer exceptions to the rule. So prime numbers are all odd. That's a rhythm right off the bat. There are no even number prime numbers. They're all odd. So there's a beat. Every other number can be prime. And then there's the famous formula well known by mathematicians, 6n plus or minus 1. There's a rhythm of 6. All prime numbers, for example, if n equals 1, 6 plus 1 is 7, 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 and 7 are prime. All prime numbers are equal 6n plus or minus 1. There are some numbers that equal 6n plus or minus 1 that are not prime, but all primes fit that formula. And then even more rigorous patterning within 30, I show this in other videos, and more rigorous patterning within 210. So the prime numbers are in these symmetrical, organized patterns, and their meanings are affected by that patterning and rhythm of prime numbers. So 37 has a 7 quality to it, but it's at a much higher level. 7 and 37 are very different, and 37 is a higher, more complex number that's picking up other subtones. And it's also affected by what other prime numbers are near it. And there aren't any very close to it. That affects its meaning. Okay, so this theory may seem very abstract or wild or crazy, but think about the things in physics, where they have quantum theory and relativity theory and string theory and all kinds of crazy, wild, abstract ideas as well. And this is some of the theory that we use for understanding how the harmonics are behaving. So one of the fantastic developments over just the last few years in vibrational astrology is not only are we making new discoveries like crazy and understanding things better and getting more positive results from research, we're getting insights from theories, and sometimes the insights just, boom, they just appear from out of nowhere. So when Larry put out this idea, I was able to relate that to the work that I do. That's not what he was thinking about. he doesn't work with these kind of ideas that much, but I was able to take his discovery and see its relevance to what we're doing in vibrational astrology. Okay, so that's my last slide. And just to repeat again, if your interest is to practice astrology, to be able to interpret charts, these theoretical considerations are not directly important. Just like a doctor can treat people without understanding all the technical details of biochemistry, or you can, my approach tends to be more, natural oriented as much as possible. So whatever herbs, you don't have to understand the chemistry of them. If you know that ginger and honey will help your sore throat, ginger, honey, lemon or something, you don't have to know all the chemistry of it to use it. But for those people who are interested in the theory, A, just because they find it interesting, or B, the theory helps make new discoveries, is the practical value of the theories. I'm just presenting this video for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing. And because I like to share it, it's just so exciting to me. Okay, my friends, thank you very much for listening. God bless. Namaste.